everyone, I'm Amber. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing Totally Killer. This is a time travel slash murder mystery movie. It's action packed with tons of funny moments and like cheesy killing scenes, but at the same time, like it's so entertaining and you're so invested. So basically, there's this girl named Jamie, and she kind of is like going through like that time in adolescence where she's too cool for her mom and too cool for everyone else, and her mom is like super overprotective because her friends got murdered when they were teenagers, and now her mom wants, of course, her child to be safe and for her to be safe. Of course, why not? Like, that is logical, but Jamie's kind of like, nah, like, it's not gonna happen. You need to get over yourself. And it's just kind of hilarious because I'm just like, that's just like a really real reason to be overprotective, because they never caught the killer, or like so they think, because they never found out who it was. And then it's been years, obviously. So Jamie's mom was part of a group of girls that picked on other girls. They were like popular, other guys too. They like picked on everybody, and they like just did not care about anyone's feelings. But they were kind of like those like popular girls that like weren't really all there, and that kind of like added to the humor. They were just kind of like, let's party, and everyone around them was like, let's party, and they had no conscience whatsoever. And so basically her three best friends in the group got murdered, one after the other, starting on her friend Tiffany's Sweet 16 party. And I don't know, there was another one, I think, that had a birthday right afterward, and then they ended up going to like this cabin and everything. And it was just like everything was set up for this perfect cheesy horror movie, which I really enjoyed. But Jamie has a best friend who's building a time machine, because why not? And she's just like, is it gonna work? Like, just kind of supporting her friend, but at the same time, just kind of like, it's just like a normal thing. Like, they're just like talking about it, like, yeah, this is a time machine. And her friend's doing it for I think a science fair project, and they're like in the middle of an old abandoned like amusement park, which, okay. And that's where they're holding the science fair, and she's using a photo booth as a time machine. And one night Jamie goes out, but this is after, and I probably should say this is after her mom gets murdered, because it's Halloween night, and the guy or girl who is the killer comes to their front door to trick or treat, and then murders the mom. But the mom is like prepared. I did not think the mom was gonna die. And like, she was busting these moves, she had all these different things. She's like, I had been prepared, I thought like you were coming years ago. And there's a reason why she didn't die, and why she was chosen to be the first victim of like the new murders, but we'll get into that. So basically, yeah, so she fights off pretty like hard, and then she ultimately gets stabbed to death, and this killer stabs 16 times. That's their MO. And then Jamie is like very upset. She's like heartbroken and everything. She's missing her mom, wish she could have been nicer to her, all the things. And then one night she's walking to walking around the abandoned amusement park and talking to her friend, and the murderer comes and goes chasing after her, completely ignores her friend, and just goes straight for her, which I thought was kind of funny. But like, this murderer seems to like, well, the one in the past, I guess, more so, like, to get anyone that's in their way, they'll stab them. But this one, I think, was just going directly for Jamie, and there's a reason for that. And that is ultimately because Jamie is the daughter of like this victim, her mom. And so yeah, and then she hops into the photo booth to hide. the killer stabs the photo booth, which is like the secret thing that makes the photo booth work, because it's like a metal conductor or whatever. And then she goes back in time, and when she opens the photo booth door, she's back when her mom is young and when the murders were about to happen. And coincidence? I think not. And so, yeah, she goes to her mom's high school. She easily gets in as a student, and meets her mom and her dad and the friends, and everything is like weird and different, and her parents are not who her parents are now, and you can see that they've definitely changed and grown into their own, because they're very much like, again, party people, and like it's just this big group of teenagers that does not care or does not know what they are doing. And as many times as she says, hey, there's going to be a murder, obviously they don't believe her, and then the first murder happens, and she is like, oh, I'm psychic, and then convinces her mom, or her past version of her mom, that she can see the future, and this is the person who's going to be killed next at a cabin. And then they end up going to the cabin, and the mom is just like oblivious at this point now. She's just like, oh, we're at a cabin, okay. It doesn't click until later on when she's with her dad in bed, that, hey, this is where the kill's supposed to happen. And then the killer's already in the house, and he's going for the wrong person, because Jamie is changing things, and things are different now. And then you can see that reflected in the past, which I mean the future, sorry, because, and I really like that, because it kind of like makes everything cohesive and go together. So her friend in the modern world is like, she went into the time machine, she time traveled. There's photos that show up during that time of her in that like party that was the first murder and everything. And then they're recognizing that, hey, things are changing and everything, we got to get her back and all this stuff. And then there's this person, this guy, he runs like a blog about the murders, and he writes about them, and does like a podcast too. I don't even know what it was, but like basically that's his thing, that's his niche. And his dad is like a famous weatherman, and basically he has been in contact with the mom to kind of like figure out the murders and how it happened and everything. Obviously he's got nothing. He's just kind of like riding the wave of like, oh my goodness, there were murders in this town, like, I'm gonna tell people about it. And he's like a little not there, but also people are just like, oh, he's like reporting about the murders, that's kind of cool. And like that's just kind of like the extent of his fame, basically. And he's kind of like someone who never lived up to his dad's expectation. And then Jamie's dad like doesn't like him, and when we find out again later why, we meet like the younger him and everything. And so yeah, her dad is like, again, part of this group, like this super buff dude, and he's dating like her mom's friend. And then when she dies and Jamie reveals that, oh, like by accident, that you're supposed to be with him, but she can't reveal that stuff, but it was again an accident. Her mom kind of goes after him, and they were not supposed to date in high school. They were supposed to like meet later on down the line. Well, they didn't meet, they obviously got together down the line. They were in the same kind of like friend group. And so yeah, and she ends up kind of lusting for him, and that ends up being a thing that later produces her brother, who I think they kind of name after her, to be honest, because she ends up saving them. And then Jamie is no longer Jamie at that point, because again, she changes things in the future. And her name is Colette, and basically, yeah, I think that they named their son Jamie because Jamie's the one who saved them. Because once they end up in the right state of mind and realizing, hey, like, the killer is coming and everything, they formulate a plan. They go to the abandoned amusement park and basically wait for the killer to come, because there's only one more victim that's supposed to be killed. But again, Jamie doesn't know if her mom is also a victim now, because things have changed. And So then they're waiting, and the last girl does get murdered, as well. I don't know if like her living would like cause anything to happen in the future. I think that it was kind of like meant to be for her to die. But the whole thing was that Jamie wanted to save her mom. She wanted to stop the murders, but she wanted to save her mom. And I was over here thinking, I'm like, what if her dad dies? Like, what happens then? But luckily that didn't happen. He just kind of got stabbed. All got stabbed like many, many, many times. And they catch the killer. And it ends up being Jamie's current principal, which that was not something I saw coming. His past self, I think, lent more to that idea, but there was nothing linking him really to the murders. And then they were like, oh, he used to date the girl we used to make fun of, and then she died because we got her like drunk, and then she went driving out, and her mom apparently had no part in that. She wasn't there that night. She could have. I strongly think she could have, because of how she acts right now. But and then she's like, you would think that of me? Like, how could you think I would kill somebody like that? And I was just like, have you met yourself right now? But she was she was clear. And that's why she was not chosen until later on. And we kind of find out that basically it was the guy who run the podcast that chose to basically start the murders up again. And he was not the original killer, but he was just kind of like possessed by the idea that he needed to be more famous and live up to his dad's expectations and yada yada yada. And so then he started killing, and was the one who killed the mom, and apparently faked leaving a note in her locker saying that she'll be next one day. That never happened because, again, she was never there. And then he went after Jamie. But yeah, the original killer, like, apparently he dated this girl, and that came out of nowhere. I was like, okay, but I kind of wanted more about that. And then his grown-up self, like, you would have not known that was something that happened, because he just is there, and I kind of wanted to like see something else from him, something suspicious, to figure that out, but nah. And then so Jamie this whole time is talking to her best friend's mom, who has the book basically that her friend is using to invent the time machine. And so she now is making a time machine in her time. Her daughter's making a time machine in her time. And the podcast guy ends up like beating up the girl, and then hops in the time machine and goes to like kill Jamie, because again, he's obsessed. And then so Jamie has to like get it in the time machine in her time, which is the past, to get back to her time. And then the killer is like trying to follow her. There's this one instant with her mom in there, and finally like she ends up killing the killer, and going back to her own time, and everything is different. And that's the movie. And it was thoroughly entertaining. I really enjoyed it. There were things that I felt didn't really add up, but for a cheesy horror movie, that makes sense. It's fine. It's just for entertainment purposes, honestly, and for the fake blood and everything. So yeah. And the mom at this point, the mom was like working like a minimum wage job of her best friend. She wasn't like really like a big deal or anything. Jamie's mom like didn't really know her. She used to make fun of her. And now everybody is friends because, again, like, they know each other now. Things are different. And yeah, everything is all good and dandy. The cop's daughter, she was part of the friend group, which I felt was kind of weird. She kind of was just there, and then like she was one of the girls that like I guess just join, because she wasn't a part of like the main like three group of girls. And So it was just kind of random, and then they kind of pointed fingers at her and everything, and she kind of just got out of everything because, again, she was the sheriff's daughter and everything. But apparently it did her some good, and she's doing well now. But yeah, that was the movie. I highly recommend it, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye!